Watch how a ferocious row erupted in the Commons as Keir Starmer is grilled over the recent EU deal at Prime Minister's questions. With tensions at boiling point, MPs wasted no time hammering the Labour leader with accusations of backtracking and secrecy, sparking a fiery clash that left the chamber reeling. Before we continue, I have one small request. If you're enjoying this deep dive into British politics, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Britain Briefed. Believe it or not, over 98% of you watch these videos without subscribing. It's completely free and it helps us keep bringing you the hard-hitting stories that matter. Let's watch this explosive clip.
Leader of the opposition, come Pedro.
Mr. Speaker, when Labour negotiates, Britain loses. He talks about a hat-trick of deals. They are own goals. In 2020, the Conservatives concluded the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, the largest and most comprehensive free trade agreement in the world. We agreed to come back in 5 years to improve terms. This renegotiation should have been an opportunity to improve terms for our country. The terms are improved for the EU. And the Prime Minister can dress it up as much as he wants, but he has failed. It is bad for bills, it is bad for jobs, and it is bad for borders. This is not a deal made for Britain. This is a deal made for Labour's PR, to show them on the world stage. But it is a stitch-up for our country for their short-term headlines. Let's take the Prime Minister's abject failures one by one. First, on fishing. He has given away the prize most desired by EU member states and done so for almost nothing. Mr. Speaker, it is very easy to sign deals if you're prepared to give everything away for pennies. This deal locks out our fishermen until 2038. We are now in a worse position than the Faroe Islands, a set of islands with a population of Scarborough, but who get to have annual negotiations. And the Prime Minister quoted some organisations welcoming his deal. He doesn't listen to them normally, but he left one out deliberately. The National Federation of Fishermen's Organisations, who have described the deal as a surrender and a giveaway. This is a Prime Minister who would pay to give away his family silver. Why is the Prime Minister selling our fishermen down the river? Is it because they don't vote Labour? Second, on food and agriculture. The Prime Minister is going to pay the EU, Mr. Speaker, he's going to pay the EU to abide by laws that we have no say on. While British farmers struggle with the family farms tax his Chancellor has imposed on them, their regulations will now be made in Paris and enforced in Brussels. It is a total capitulation. We're not in the EU. We are not at the table. So can the Prime Minister tell us how is he going to ensure accountability for the hundreds of regulations he has signed this country up to? Third, on energy. The Prime Minister has shackled us to the EU's emissions trading scheme. This means the government can no longer cut energy costs without the EU's permission. It will also unravel parts of the India FTA he's just negotiated. This isn't a technicality, it is a betrayal. The House should be in no doubt. This means higher bills, more pain, and less flexibility. Fourth, on his own manifesto promises, the Prime Minister said that we would not rejoin the single market. He promised no new payments, that he would protect British interests. That promise has lasted about as long as his commitment to protect pensioners' winter fuel allowance. He said whatever was needed to win power, Mr. Speaker, and now he'll say whatever is needed to keep it, even if it means selling out our sovereignty, our businesses, and the public. The truth is that most of what was announced yesterday was not a deal. There was no binding agreement on anything. Most of the items outlined are simply agreements to enter into further discussions we are already having. The Prime Minister is boasting that we will now avoid airport queues because we'll get access to EU e-gates. It sounds great, except it isn't true. Some airports already allow it. This deal does not guarantee it anywhere. Each country still has to agree. And that, Mr. Speaker, sums up this deal perfectly. It is a lot of spin to disguise the terrible substance. Having previously ruled out a youth mobility scheme, the Prime Minister is now desperately trying to hide his latest U-turn by rebranding it as an experience. This is risen. We have no details on any cap, No details on any time limit, which begs the question, why is the government talking about increasing migration before it has got a grip on the small boats or the legal migration system? I know the Prime Minister doesn't like answering questions, but people out there want to know, can we have some honesty as to what has been discussed? How many young European workers does the Prime Minister think would be acceptable? And will they be able to bring dependents? Even the defence commitments in this deal are hopelessly one-sided. We're making payments, but they are offering dialogue and consultation. This is a pitiful return for the country that leads NATO in Europe with troops on the ground in Estonia defending our allies. Can the Prime Minister tell us why there's not a single word in his statement about the money we will now be sending to Brussels? And can he set out how much those payments will cost taxpayers? Mr. Speaker, in government, details matter, and so does honesty. They're laughing, but this is a bad deal for the country. Look at them. This is how they laughed at the budget. They have no idea what it is they signed up to. He said he would stay out of the single market. He's going into the single market for agri-food, electricity and energy. He said he'd stay out of the customs union, but he is accepting EU tariff rules. How does he plan to stop the EU changing them to our disadvantage? He has no idea, neither do any of them. Because the British people know, Mr. Speaker, when they are being misled. They know that headlines fail. He didn't listen to the CBI on the jobs tax. He didn't listen to the FSB on the family farms tax. This deal has already unraveled. The damage is becoming clear. The political consequences will be huge. And here he is, trumpeting his success. And when he stands up in a moment, he'll deflect, he'll dismiss, he'll distract. But we all know the truth. This was a fiction of a speech, a fraud of a deal, a failure of a Prime Minister.
Oh dear. That was just such an unserious response. She says detailed matter in government. They matter in opposition as well. The SBS agreement cuts red tape and bureaucracy for all food and agriculture going into the EU. That's a massive boost for our supermarkets, for our farmers and others. Why is it that all the supermarkets have come out behind this? Because they know how important the SBS agreement is. It's completely in our favour. Huge amount of detail there. The best agreement. On defence and security. Defence and security. Greater operational coordination. And she's against it at a time like that. It opens the gate to the EU Defence Procurement Fund of €150 billion. That was a condition of it. It saves, Mr. Speaker, she complains about emissions. I'll tell you how much. Businesses were going to pay £800 million a year in tariffs that they won't now pay. That's why they're coming out into the That's how much. The detail matters. The detail matters. Energy, we're already connected. We're not using that energy connection. Electrical access to the market. On steel, getting rid of the tariffs that will support British steel, and she's against it yet again. E-gates, and she says they're already in existence. This clears the way for e-gates everywhere. That's the huge difference. And if any of them doubt that, they should travel through a border today and see the long queues. And law enforcement, better operational working with Europol, and she's against it. Information sharing on facial mapping, dealing with criminal records, and she's against it. She's absolutely unserious. She's also against the India deal, which of course does huge things for trades like whiskey, where their only concern is whether they can produce enough. They've been absolutely clear about supporting the India deal, a deal they tried to do, and she now says she's against it. The US deal, which saved thousands upon thousands of jobs in car manufacturing, and JLR. I don't know whether she had the chance to do that trip to JLR, but she really ought to before she responds like that again. The US deal that reduces tariffs on steel so our steel can be sold into America, and she's against it and supports our whiskey and gin. Mr. Speaker, she is against every single deal. She's the only ex-Trade Secretary who's against every single deal. This deal has been welcomed broadly because they're good deals. Now let me turn... Mr. Speaker, you don't get a great long list of endorsements from all of the business associations, all of the companies. It's just, they're so unserious. They're lost. They're lost into a descent in the abyss. They used to be a proud party of trading agreements. They have slid off into the abyss. That's where they are. And Mr. Speaker, on fishing, none of the rights negotiated by the party opposite have been removed. None of the rights. No change to access to coastal communities, the same as before. No reduction in the British quota or increase in EU quota, same as before. Reciprocal arrangements, same as before. What is new, Mr. Speaker, is the SPS agreement. For the first time and permanent, they were unable to do this. That reopens the EU market for shellfish and makes it much easier to sell British fish into our largest trading partner. And Mr. Speaker, that's hugely significant because 72% of British fish is traded into EU markets. It's now easier to do that. And we're backing that with £360 million for our fishing and coastal grants. Mr. Speaker, she talks about the Youth Experience Scheme. It is a capped scheme. It is time limited. It is capped. It's time limited. It is balanced. Mr. Speaker, on relation to standards, the truth is this: we are currently aligned in our standards. We just don't get the benefit of it. We want to continue to have high standards, and that's what the British public want, and that's what this deal delivers. We will have a role in shaping any future rules, and application of them is specifically subject to our constitutional arrangements. We will have a process in this Parliament to apply the rules. But let's be clear, we are already applying those rules at the moment. We're just not getting the advantage. This strips that away. It's good for our country. Good.
Keir Starmer defends his stance on the EU deal. The backlash from across the benches suggests this debate is far from over. Will Labour hold the line, or is this the beginning of deeper political fractures? We'll be following every twist and turn, bringing you the most important moments as they happen. If you found this clip revealing, insightful, or just downright dramatic, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to Britain Briefed. We're here to make sense of the chaos in Westminster without the fluff. Got thoughts on what you just saw? Drop them in the comments. Your voice matters more than ever. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.